Grey Cup Sunday, you think Hamilton Tiger Cats, and you see championships with names like Sazio, Ely, and of course, the hard-nosed Angelo Mosca. The 98 Ticats clawed into contention. Paul Osbaldiston's field goal, last play of the game, sent the team and coach Ronnie Lancaster to Hamilton's first Grey Cup in 9 years.
With this group of guys in the season we've had this year, this Grey Cup is the most important moment of my athletic career.
For me, just being a part of an organization that got turned around from 2-16 to a Grey Cup championship would be the icing on the cake.
Calgary has but 3 titles, the first in 1948, but no team has won more regular season games in the 90s than the Stampeders, topped by that Grey Cup win in 1992 in Toronto. Now, the current team is an offensive powerhouse, yet impressive stats don't create a dynasty. That is a product of drive and leadership.
I want to win the Grey Cup because I believe that it's the ultimate measure of a quarterback's accomplishments.
I can give my body a rest for a long time after this game, so I'm just going to lay it all on the line.
The following is a live presentation of CBC Sports.
It's one for the cup. The entire country's watching, a true Canadian tradition. Calgary's Jeff Garcia plays quarterback with a linebacker's mentality, a tough guy who thrives in a thinking man's role. The 9-year veteran Alan Pitts has always worn Stampeder colors. He's the team's all-time leader in catches, yards, and touchdowns. He's called Danny Mac, and he's turned the Ticats around. In his 5th Grey Cup, will Danny McManus find a way to win? Cut from the same cloth as his older brother Doug, Darren Flutie has plenty of his own magic, a big play type of competitor. When it comes to collisions, Alondra Johnson rules from his linebacking position, while Ticat tackle Joe Mountford piles up the sacks with speed and strength. Ron Lancaster and Wally Buono knock heads as players. Today, they'll match strategies from the sideline. Live from Winnipeg, it's Countdown Sunday. And at just after 2:30 local time on a Sunday afternoon, live shot of downtown Winnipeg. That's the Red River in the foreground. What an afternoon for football in southern Manitoba. Bright sunshine, temperature of +5. As we move into the stadium from the helicopter in the western portion of the city, winds were a consideration here yesterday. They reached 70 clicks. So they are again blowing and out of the south here this afternoon, but nowhere near as hard. And as we move into Winnipeg Stadium, we move to the north end of the stadium. Calgary Stampeders on the field, and we'll move into our broadcast location, our host booth for Grey Cup 98. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome to CBC's live coverage of Grey Cup 98. We're on the air for the next 90 minutes with Countdown. The kickoff is at 4 local time, 5 Eastern. Let's right now show you the menu for our Countdown show, the 90-minute show. We begin with reports on both teams. The Commissioner, John Tory, will talk about the state of the Canadian Football League. No Regrets deals with the 91 game here in Winnipeg. We'll hear from Rocket Ismail, Bruce McNall, Wayne Gretzky, and Larry Rickman. I'll talk with Doug Flutie. He's playing against the Indianapolis Colts this afternoon at Rich Stadium in New York. And we will talk with Doug Flutie via satellite from upstate New York. Mike Pinball Clemens, the league's best ambassador, will also join us here this afternoon. Well, as we came into the stadium, we saw the Calgary Stampeders on the field, some of the players on the field behind me. The Stampeders, the Western champions, were the first to arrive here at the stadium this afternoon. In fact, the Calgary Stampeders, there's the bus, arrived about an hour and 20 minutes ago. And as the Stampeders arrived here at the stadium, Glenn Suter was there to talk with slotback Alan Pitts.
Al, what do you do against a Don Southern defense?
Just like I've been saying all week, I know because they're coached by Don Sutherland, that's a plus for them. We're going to have to work hard today. They're good defensive backs. They're athletic. They play well together. They're veterans. The whole defense plays well as a unit. We have our work cut out for us today, but we're ready for the challenge, and we look forward to it.
Explain your emotions at this point right now.
Right now, I'm trying to keep everything, you know, inside so I can let it all out once I get on the field. I'm just trying to calm my mind and my nerves and get myself ready to go out here and play the biggest game of the year.
Good luck, Al.
Thank you.
And the Eastern champion Ticats, led by head coach Ronnie Lancaster, arrived here at the stadium about 20 minutes later. And Steve Armitage was there to talk with assistant coach Don Southern.
Sudsy, nobody's played more and coached in more of these games, and are you nervous? Do you get nervous this close to game time?
Very much so. No, I'm telling you, I get nervous just like the players do, and you know, as we played, you know, if you get hit once or twice, the nervousness is all gone, but I got butterflies right now, and the day I don't have butterflies, I'll quit coaching.
What's the mood of the Ticats right now?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, we're right now, this team is a little upset the fact that people saying we're not supposed to be here. Well, we're going to show them we're supposed to be here.
What are the keys defensively for the Ticats to stop Alan Pitts and Jeff Garcia and company?
Well, number one, we got to stop their passing attack, and then when that happens, you know, they've got a good runner in Anderson, and Garcia's a great runner. So, you know, we've got a threefold thing to do, but we've done it pretty well all year to these teams, and I think we can continue to do it today.
Sudsy, good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Steve Armitage with Don Southern. Speaking of the Ticats, they have been designated the home team for the game, thus have the Winnipeg Blue Bomber dressing room. Chris Walby spent most of his great career using that room, and he returned to the Bombers dressing room last night to recall some of the feelings and rituals of the players on their last stop before this afternoon's game.
Here we are in the locker room, the night before the big game, the biggest game in the CFL, the Grey Cup game. And I look around here and I see my two locker stalls. These were my puppies for 16 years. And I see different people's names on it. It makes me think, what are these guys going through on the night before the game? They're tucked away in their bed. They're thinking, they're visualizing. They're going through all the things they have to do to be right tomorrow. I know coming to a game and some people will tell you, you know what? It's just another game. We got to play. Wrong. Punt that out the window, because I'll tell you what. You're going to come in here and it's going to be eerily quiet. Guys will be in a corner playing crib. Other guys will sit with towels over their head, visualizing what they have to do to have the perfect game. Other guys will take their helmet and repeatedly check it to make sure everything is completely right, so nothing can go wrong in their plan. And it's quiet. And all of a sudden you hear the 3-minute warning. 3 minutes till we're out. And someone will yell, "Let's go!" And I tell you what, the room will erupt. All the emotions like a volcano will come out. And they'll say, as a unit, they'll be like gladiators out in the field, getting ready to do battle for the prize, the jewelry, the reign, the championship. And there's nothing left to do right now except play the game.
Chris Walby, that piece taped last night. Well, we had him at the Olympics in Atlanta. He was with us in Nagano, Japan. He popped up at the breakfast. He was at the parade Friday night. His band was in the act at the Countdown Fan Club. I am told that Winnipeg's Peter Jordan is indeed here in the stadium this afternoon. Peter, exactly where are you?
Hi, Brian. I'm here deep within the bowels of the Winnipeg Stadium. I'm here with John Couture, who's concessions manager. Must be a busy day for you today.
Very busy day. We're cooking about 15,000 smokies today.
15,000
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, as you can no doubt tell, folks, John is not a typical manager. He is a member of the Transcona Terrorists, who, how many Grey Cups for you now?
It's my 25th anniversary this
25th.
year. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, I
Thank
remember
you.
first seeing you in, it was BC, wasn't it?
Vancouver,
1990?
1990,
That's a
correct.
good party.
Yeah. Oh, excellent party.
Bombers
Excellent.
won.
Bombers
Yeah.
won. Great year.
And then the next year was our turn in Winnipeg.
91, best Grey Cup of my 25.
I can't disagree with you there. And then, of course, I saw you in Hamilton at the Touchdown Manitoba party.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
Yeah,
Life is
that
a
was a lot of
highway.
fun. Yes, it is.
Great voice.
Thank
now,
you.
I guess you're not going to be able to see this Grey Cup, though. It's a bit sad that way.
A little bit, but I'm going to walk around the field later
Oh,
on.
good.
Just
Keep
to
the
make
streak
like
alive?
I was there. Yes.
All right.
yes.
Now, I couldn't help but notice the dogs are on already. We're, what, about an hour and a half to game time? So is that the secret ingredient? That's what I'm missing at home.
That's the secret ingredient. To bring out that stadium flavor,
Yeah.
you got to have it an hour before.
Okay, that's what I got to do. Now, listen, poor Brian Williams has been sitting there for hours. Have you got a dog ready?
Let's get
Load it up. I'm
let's
sure
get
he
him
takes
one.
it
Let's get
loaded.
him one.
Yeah, that looks good. Thank you, Brian. Here's a dog. Enjoy. One of the 15,000 to be served by John here today. Here we go, Bombers. Here we go.
I've had the flu for 2 days. Believe me, the last thing I need is a greasy hot dog. Stay with us. You're watching live coverage of Countdown 98. As we count it down to the Grey Cup, the Hamilton Ticats and the Calgary Stampeders still to come. CFL Commissioner John Tory, and we'll hear from a cast of characters involved in the game here in 1991. Back live in Winnipeg on this Sunday afternoon. Let's hold this shot. Those seats in the upper part of the screen, those are the temporary seats south end of the stadium. They still had about 8,000 to sell this morning. They were charging $124 a piece. They've now gone on a 2-for-1 basis. Winnipeg fans simply saying, we are not going to pay that kind of money to sit in the end zone. Well, the game this afternoon will be called by Chris Cuthbert and Chris Walby. And right now, let's go up to the play-by-play booth on the west side of Winnipeg Stadium.
Glad Chris Walby made it up here. I thought you were going to suit up seeing you down in the locker room. But what kind of a bonus is it for the players to show up today and have such extraordinary weather for this time of the year?
Well, they've had the whole week. It's been blustery. The wind's been 50K an hour. They've had to change their practice schedule, some of their play calling, work on things they otherwise might not have to work on, short kicks and stuff like that. But I tell you what, you wake up, the sun is shining, the biggest game of the year, you got to be smiling.
Well, we're smiling about the matchup because these were the top two teams during the regular season. We're going to look at the breakdown of offense versus defense on either side of the football, and we'll start with the Calgary Stampeders, the #1 ranked offense in the league, the top quarterback.
Well, I tell you what, Jeff Garcia, I mean, here's a guy, 4-time Western All-Star, first-time All-Canadian. Now they're saying, is this guy tough? Hey, I tell you what, he takes licks. Here he leaves it. You know what? He gets stitches from Philbrick. 7 stitches, misses 2 plays. Comes back, leads it to victory. Watch this, though. This is the smarts. Little bit of an Ala Doug Flutie, little pitch. Otherwise, you know, years before he tried to force something, he just is smart. He's matured beyond belief.
And he also has plenty of weapons at his disposal. They call them the bomb squad in Calgary. Look at these receivers, 4 of the top 14 in the league, 3,000-yard receivers. Travis Moore was not, and yet he was the most dangerous against Hamilton, but the bread and butter guy is Alan Pitts.
You couldn't have put it any better. This is the bread and butter guy. Alan Pitts is a guy they're going to go to in clutch situations. And his favorite pattern is the lazy hook. Just going to come across the middle behind the linebacker. But the guy up top, he's got to clear it. Now that's Terry Vaughn. And the guy, Kelvin Anderson, at the bottom is going to run through. Now we got something new here for you people. A little bit of 3D, a little bit of Nintendo, Sega if you want. Take a look at this. The offensive line, again, doing a great job. But you can see Alan Pitts coming across the middle. He's going to catch the pass. Calvin Anderson clearing out the remaining linebacker. Nice job. This is something they're going to have to stop today.
The problem for Calgary is they're going against the top defense in the CFL. 3 All-Canadians in the secondary, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats led the league in interceptions with 37. Gerald Bond, one of those All-Canadians. He is going to be tough today, but the ball hawking starts with great pressure up front.
You know what? I love this stuff, man. This is the battle of the trenches. And, of course, we're talking about Joe Montfort. Now, we all know what he can do. He can come around the corner quicker than a cat after a fish. But I tell you what, see those 2 arrows? Those 2 guys are going to slant to the bottom of your screen. Montfort's going to run a little double stunt. He's going to come up, freeze a tackle, loop around. Now let's take a look at this in 3D again. You can see there's the quarterback. He's looking downfield. He can't see Montfort. He's got a great opening right there to get to the quarterback, and that's what his job on this play is. Come around, find the first opening he can get to, and get to the quarterback. Watch this as we see it in real live action right now. See what happens. See him coming around, flush his belt, sack. When you're going against another offensive line, this is some of the things you got to do to confuse them.
One of 21 sacks for Joe Montfort on the year. That's why they call him the monster. Angie Mosca was telling me the other day he thinks it's the best Hamilton defense since 1967.
Well, I got to agree with you. I mean, these guys can do it all. And I think the big addition, I know we're talking about Montfort a lot, but the 2 guys in the middle, Whitehead, Philbrick, and you look at the other side, Gonzalo Floyd, these guys fit together. It's one thing to have 4 stars, but when you play together and you have that chemistry, in the big game, that makes all the difference in the world.
These guys have been together for 3 years.
Wow.
They were 2-16 last year with this defense, and many felt with any offense, they would have been at least 9-9. We'll look at Hamilton's offense against Calgary's defense with Chris Gameboy Walby a little later. Ryan?
All right, Chris Cuthbert, thank you very much. Gorgeous afternoon. Who says you can't play the Grey Cup in southern Manitoba in late November? Still about an hour and 14 minutes to kick off. Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Calgary Stampeders, fans beginning to pour in here to Winnipeg Stadium. They're expecting something less than capacity. Again, those south end zone seats that were priced too high. Stay with us. John Tory, the CFL Commissioner, up next as we roll along live from Winnipeg on this Sunday afternoon.
It
was born of royalty, crowned in glory, and has held court over some of the fiercest battles of all time. It has witnessed moments of greatness, noble men of courage undaunted in their quest for victory. It is a living testament to the spirit of our game.
Countdown to kickoff for the 1998 Grey Cup game. Well, I told you it's warm and sunny here this afternoon in southern Manitoba as we count it down to the Hamilton Ticats and the Calgary Stampeders. I have been hosting this show for, I guess, 21 years. It is a tradition that we hold what's called the State of the Union. We look at the direction of the Canadian Football League, and I'll tell you what, over the years, I have had, to say the least, some interesting discussions with various CFL officials. What about this dumb idea of expanding to the United States? Murray Peasant put it forward. I think it's absolutely stupid. What do you think?
Well, I think it's as stupid as one could possibly think. I think, as Bill's pointed out, the next step is Montreal, and the step after that is Halifax. And if you can't do that, then forget about it.
Right. What about the Edmonton Eskimos? Flaunting the rules and not showing up in Calgary. What do you do to Campbell?
Well, I've tried to talk to all people, but it's been a busy week. I've talked to some of the people involved, and there's always two sides to a story. And if I have to discipline them, you know my style of discipline. I do it in public, but I do it rather dramatically to them. They'll feel that whip again.
Can this league survive without expanding into the United States? Is it dead in a year or two if it doesn't?
The purpose of expanding or reducing your cost is to lower your cost base so you can exist. We can exist as an 8-team configuration, but as I stated from the beginning, do you want to exist in a state where you're always going to be chasing your tail?
Well, let's be honest. It's been a disaster everywhere but Baltimore.
It hasn't been a disaster, Brian. What it has been is a mix of people without patience and poor execution.
You know, I'm not sure if I'm getting old and mellowing or John Tory's done a great job. Welcome to our booth here this afternoon. You have done a good job. It's been a long time since I've been able to say that. This league is in a state of flux every year, but this year, John, really some good news this week.
I should say, first of all, that I hear you're as cranky as ever, but having said that, Brian, we're making some solid progress. We're making some solid progress, and I think the league is in better shape than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. I think people like Larry Smith and Don Crump and others before him, had it not been for all their work, the league might have disappeared a long time ago, but what we're now doing is stabilizing it and making it stronger, and we've got quite a bit to go yet.
All right, but you've been honest. 4 teams make money, 4 teams don't. There's no more sugarcoating. You said if we act like Keystone Cops, we should be treated like Keystone Cops. Talk to me about image. I think image was a big concern of yours this year.
I think the image affected the fans before when all of our business problems were spread all over the television and the newspapers. People thought, well, why do I want to go to the game? Sponsors certainly thought, why do I want to be associated with this league? So we wanted to make sure that people felt proud to be associated with the Canadian Football League, whether it was players, coaches, fans, and sponsors. So the #1 thing we had to do was stabilize it, keep our business problems out of the papers, off television, and allow people to focus on the game, because the one thing we all know, Brian, is that this game sells itself. It's a fabulous game. It's a Canadian game. And so if we could get the business stories off the front page and get the football stories onto the front page, we'd be in business, and we've really come a long way.
Doug Flutie talks about that in a taped interview coming up in a few minutes, but you still do have some problems, mainly in your 2 biggest markets.
We do. I mean, we've got to do better in Toronto and Vancouver. It's not acceptable to us to have the attendance that we have in those cities, and frankly, those are where a lot of the sponsorship and corporate support decisions are made in this country. Whether that's good or bad, it's the truth. And we just have to work harder at it. I think we have to do a lot more to cut through the clutter in big cities like that where there's so much going on. And I think we have to probably dig ourselves out of a slightly deeper hole in terms of the image that the league had in the bad years.
Tell me, have you figured it out? This game right now, more people watching than any other sporting event, including the Stanley Cup, yet it doesn't translate into season attendance. Why?
I think it started, but I think, again, the Grey Cup has always been part of a sort of a national festival that transcended football. It was a national kind of festival of bringing the country together, East against West. It's a great tradition. This is the 86th Grey Cup. I think they've only had 35 Super Bowls. But I think what we now have to do is make the football something that's acceptable to be associated with all summer and all fall. And I think that's the part we're working on, is to have people proud to be associated with the game all year, not just on the 1 day a year.
John, very quickly, you had what I thought was a great idea at your news conference on Friday. play wherever the Grey Cup is, the local high school football on the Friday, right? The Vanier Cup on the Saturday, the Grey Cup on the Sunday. Will that fly with the CIAU people?
I hope so. I mean, we're working more closely with them now, and they have the same problem. I mean, you know, where they have this once-a-year Vanier Cup. It's a great spectacle of Canadian football. So what we're trying to do is build the Canadian game. It's our game. It's only played professionally in this country. And I think if we can build college football, build high school football, and build the Grey Cup at the same time, we'll really have something terrific. And you know, I think that that's a project that I hope we can bring to fruition in the next couple of years.
Speaking of the Grey Cup, you're going to Vancouver next year. You would like to go back to Toronto in 2000. Other people would say you're nuts. It has to stay here on the prairies.
I think it is crucial that this game go back to Toronto, if not in 2000, very shortly thereafter. You can't keep the biggest classic we have in Canadian sports and in Canadian football out of the biggest city in the country and hope that we're going to rebuild Canadian football in that market. It just doesn't work. So I think that we have to be back in Toronto. There are those who think it's risky. To me, it's risky, but it's a risk we have to take, and we just have to work harder to make sure it's successful.
Has your partnership worked out with the NFL?
It's been a splendid success. I mean, they have helped us, introduced us to sponsors. They have, but I think most importantly, they've helped us work on grassroots programs for football. The flag football program is going to have hundreds of thousands of kids this year participating. And at the end of the day, we are going to rebuild the CFL fan by fan by fan, sitting in those seats in cities across the country. And if we can start with the kids, they want to go to the games, they have to take their parents with them, and the crowds will swell. So that this is a great program, and the NFL has helped us a lot.
I'm not sure people realize you're not paid. I mean, you're a very successful businessman. You do this for free. The question I want to know is your wife still speaking to you?
She's pretty good about these kinds of things. I had sort of told her I was going to step down this year, and somehow I got out to the press conference, and the devil got inside me, and I said, okay, I'll stay for one more year. But we're just on the cusp, I think, of doing something very special with the game, and I think there are just very few Canadian institutions left, you know, that are really Canadian and that speak to the essence of this country, so that I want to work to build this thing and to build this game. And if that takes another year, I'm sure my wife would be happy to have me do that.
John, thank you for joining us. Hang on for just a minute. Let me go back to 1952. We got that videotape, Jeff Johnson, the 1952 Grey Cup. The Toronto Argonauts defeated Edmonton 21-11. The first game televised by CBC Television. CBC is proud to have televised each and every Grey Cup since that game in 1952 back at Varsity Stadium in Toronto, which is no longer going to be. There's Ronnie Lancaster coaching today. That's my good friend Ernie Afaganis interviewing him. CBC has a long Grey Cup tradition. Joining us here in the studio is Jim Bird, the Vice President of the English Network. And John, you have some good news.
Well, Brian, we're delighted to announce to football fans across Canada that a tradition that has been going on since 1952 will be extended at least 4 more years, and hopefully many years beyond that, and that we've signed a contract with TSN and the CBC to have the CBC carry our playoff and Grey Cup games for the next 4 years, and we're thrilled about that. It's a tradition that's almost as important as the Grey Cup itself, and so we're thrilled, and we're looking forward to 4 more years and hopefully many beyond that.
Well, so are we, John. It's the Grey Cup is important to us. It's still, as Brian said earlier, one of the major television attractions in this country, and we just see the league growing all the time.
Now, hopefully we can do something about his disposition. But, can you work on that for us?
We'll do our best.
I've had the flu for 2 days, and I've never been nicer. Thank you, John Tory, the CFL Commissioner. Jim Bird, Vice President of the English Network. Stay with us. Up next, a very special piece. We'll go back to 1991, look at the Grey Cup here then between Toronto and Calgary. We'll hear from Bruce McNall, Larry Rickman, Rocket Ismail, and Wayne Gretzky. You're watching Countdown to Kickoff live from Winnipeg on this Sunday afternoon. And back live in Winnipeg, that is the view from the west, looking east. Stadium in the foreground, downtown Winnipeg in the background. Fans beginning to come in. As I say, it's very warm, +5, bright sunshine. Kicking is a concern. That is Calgary's Mark McLaughlin, who is a Winnipeg native with the strong winds out of the south. And when you talk about kicking, you talk about Paul Osbaldiston and his performance kicking the winning field goal a week ago today at Ivor Wynne Stadium against the Montreal Alouettes. The only other time the Grey Cup has been held here in Winnipeg was 1991. I still remember Rocket Ismail returning that kickoff for the touchdown, coming right down into the end zone behind me, the beer cans smashing on the artificial turf coming out of the east stands. Remember Matt Dunnigan started for Toronto with a broken collarbone, injured shoulder. Truly back in 1991, when Toronto defeated Calgary in the Grey Cup here in Winnipeg, there were some interesting characters both on and off the field. Winnipeg threw a great Grey Cup party back in 1991, providing a spirited trip into a dramatic game. It is a long way, both in distance and time, from that Sunday afternoon in Winnipeg here to Charlotte, North Carolina. But Rocket Ismail remembers it all like it was yesterday. The week, the game, and of course that kickoff return.
If he gets to the outside this time, he's gone!
And it was just like the Red Sea just parted. You know, I mean, there wasn't really anything special on my part other than running for the hole, but boom, I hit it, and I was just like, wow, and I'm running to the sideline, kind of like just celebration, and wow, here comes somebody's beer can, you know what I'm saying, splash on the ground. The happiness of scoring and being able to give our team a shot in the arm right after they scored was just like, that was a great thing. That was a great thing.
2nd and 3, the ball is at the 47-yard line.
Argo quarterback Matt Dunnigan was a surprise last-minute starter in spite of a broken collarbone suffered in the Eastern Final. Even today, he remembers being caught up in the whirlwind experience that was the Argos of '91.
The neat thing was all the focus all year long was on Rocket, Wayne, John, Bruce, you know, the group, you know, and it just left us players the opportunity to go out there and play and perform. And yet we were along for the ride and we enjoyed every bit of it.
The team owner. In February 1991, the CFL entered a new era, the Hollywood years, as Bruce McNall, John Candy, and Wayne Gretzky purchased the Toronto Argonauts. Their first move, well, it was to bring aboard Rocket Ismail, the Notre Dame star, with an $18 million contract. Now, following Toronto's lead, Larry Rickman revived the Calgary franchise. Banned for stock manipulation by the Alberta Securities Commission, Rickman is now a successful American businessman. We spoke at his Arizona home.
I got into the team because of the fact that it was dying, it was going bankrupt. I'd lived in Calgary for so long, but also Wayne and Bruce flew out and said you should buy this team. And they had this vision of creating expansion and bringing Hollywood and excitement to the league.
The cold, that's what everyone talked about at the '91 Grey Cup. A full house turned out despite minus 17-degree temperatures, diehard fans and celebrities alike.
I can remember getting off the plane, going to the stadium, standing beside Danny Kepley, and it was so cold that his mustache was basically frozen ice. And if there's one thing that I remember exactly how cold it really was.
I'm pretty cold, and writer, actor, etc. Alan Thicke, who's freezing. Are you freezing? Popsicle, that's what I am.
People of Winnipeg should be very proud of what they did this week, and they really put on a great show.
After finishing second, Calgary upset Edmonton in the West Final. They entered the Grey Cup nearly invisible underdogs.
For a lot of these guys, it was really the first time that they ever were there that, you know, whether the attention was focused on the Rocket or Wayne Gretzky or, you know, we were, like I say, proud to be there. It was, like I say, it was a good show for us, and I guess the thing that was disappointing was the fact that we didn't win the game.
I think for myself personally, I was somewhat in awe just about everything that was going on around me and everything that the Grey Cup includes.
As interesting as some of the players were that took part in that 1991 Grey Cup game, the people behind the scenes, i.e. the owners, were even more interesting. Bruce McNall, who owned the Argonauts, was found guilty of bank fraud. He is now serving time in a federal prison camp, which is part of the federal penitentiary behind me here in Lompoc, California. McNall would not consent to appear on camera, but did agree to an exclusive audio interview with me. I talked to him about memories of his Argonaut years and operating the Toronto team.
I feel that we made some mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes was my inability to focus my full attention on it. I was so driven in so many different directions between the Kings and being chairman of the NHL at that time and expansion, plus my own financial problems that were surfacing by that time, that I really couldn't devote what I thought needed to be devoted to the team.
McNall's partner John Candy took a hands-on approach to raising the stature of the Argos and the CFL in general. A lifelong football fan, he threw himself into everything, pressing the flesh, calling on his showbiz buddies like the Blues Brothers at Skydome to promote the game. Being there became an experience. His effect was larger than life, and it was truly treasured.
Loved him, genuinely loved him. And it was interesting just the way you would give that love and you would feel it back. You wouldn't feel it with anything on it. You would feel it as a genuine, I love you, and whatever I can do for you, Just ask me.
This was sort of a dream for him, I think, to be involved with the CFL and own a team, and that's what he had talked to me about way back when. He was one of the reasons that I got the team in the first place, frankly. He would do everything from going out of his way to signing footballs and throwing them up in the stands to every little thing that was ever asked of him, and he was just, I can't say enough about John. He was just a wonderful man.
John was one of those absolute, pure, loved people that loved this league, and I think he did more for this league possibly than anybody that's ever been part of it.
And the city of Toronto.
Euphoria reigned for the Argonauts that frosty afternoon. The CFL glowed, yet ironically, those who most influenced the league's direction were the ones ultimately affected.
Yeah, I don't regret it from what the accomplishments and for bringing the Grey Cup back to Calgary and all those things. Financially, of course I do. When you own a sports franchise in the CFL, exit's real tough. But do I regret it? No, they were wonderful years. And most of the players are still close personal friends.
Although we did some things wrong and lost a lot of money doing it, I think Wayne and myself would say to ourselves, if we had to do it all over again, we probably would. And if for no other reason, to give that last bit of time that John had on Earth some thrill and some excitement for himself.
Champions come and go, but the CFL's appeal remains strong. Hockey's greatest superstar puts the game's essence into perspective as only he can.
If you grow up in Canada or if you live a long period of time in Canada, the CFL is something that is part of your life. It's something that you think about, you talk about, and it doesn't go away. And as I said, I had tremendous memories being involved with the Toronto Argonauts.
Needless to say, much has changed in the lives of those involved in that game. The last word, though, belongs to Bruce McNall from the federal penitentiary here in California.
I hope the Canadian fans stick with the sport and they stick with the CFL. It was something that a lot of us paid a dear price for, and Wayne certainly did, and John, and to a lesser extent myself, and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort and sweat into it, a lot of money into it, the Larry Rickmans of the world and so forth, and I just hope they stay with it and enjoy it and stick with that sport as long as they can.
Certainly a very different time for the Canadian Football League. We'll talk about that in just a minute with Cam Cole from the National Post and Steve Brunt from the Globe and Mail. Special thanks to cameraman Jim Nielsen, producers Trevor Pilling and Fausto Belwamini for putting that piece together. Stay with us. You're watching live coverage of Countdown to Kickoff, the 1998 Grey Cup from here in Winnipeg. Ron Lancaster and Wally Buono. Game will kick off at about 49 minutes from now. Back live after this. Back live in Winnipeg, 45 minutes to kickoff. Calgary Stampeders and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Chris Cuthbert and Chris Walby will call the game here this afternoon. And back live at Winnipeg Stadium, fans still coming in. Again this morning when I came out to the ball club, or the ballpark, the word from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who are staging this game, was there's still about 8,000 seats shy of capacity, and they do indeed remember the Canadian Football League in Baltimore. We'll talk football with Cam Cole and Stephen Brunt in just a minute, but I understand you want to go out in the field. Let's go out in the field and check in with Glenn Suter. Glenn?
Ryan, I just talked to head coach Wally Buono about any last-minute roster changes, and he said the only change that we'll see is that Greg Knox will be inserted into the lineup. Now, he's doing it for sentimental reasons. Greg Knox is the veteran, but he's not 100% healthy. It shouldn't hurt the Calgary Stampeders unless starter Greg Frères goes down, so I'll watch that closely.
All right, there's a look at Knox, and thank you, Glenn Suter, back live in the studio. Peter Jordan is here in the studio with us, or here in the stadium with us, actually. I mentioned earlier he was with us during our coverage of the Atlanta Olympics, the Nagano Olympics. We heard about hot dogs earlier. One final time, let's check in with Winnipeg's Peter Jordan.
Well, Brian, there's fans from all across the country. It's been a terrific walk-up. I'm saying this game's going to be sold right out. But there are fans from more than just Hamilton and Calgary here. I met this group during the partying here. They are from Halifax.
No, we're from Dartmouth. Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Dartmouth, big difference. And you are more than just here to enjoy the game. I am right. You are a man on a mission. You are a group with a mission.
We are indeed. Most of these guys have been coming for 3 years. We're here to bring the Grey Cup and the team to Halifax in 2003.
What a fantastic idea. Now, do you have a stadium or a team?
We have neither yet, but we're working on it.
Don't let that get in the way.
But I'll tell you what, Peter, we do have the weather as nice as what you have here in Winnipeg today.
You get nice days, too, in the wintertime, do you?
Absolutely.
Now, you do have a name for your team.
We do indeed.
The Atlantic Schooners. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, you gave me a pin the other day at the Touchdown Manitoba Social. I got one for you, a Manitoba pin. And I'm proud of you guys for coming all the way here to enjoy the Grey Cup.
Thank you very much, Peter, and CBC. And if we build it, will you all come? Come to Dartmouth in 2003.
So, Brian, if these guys have their way, we'll see you in Dartmouth in 2003.
Excellent. Yeah. Hi, Kathy.
Atlantic Canada certainly supports university football. Yesterday, a disappointing loss. The Concordia Stingers defeating the Acadia Axemen 24-23, but they get big crowds for university football in Atlantic Canada. As promised, joining us from the National Post, formerly the columnist with the Edmonton Journal, Cam Cole, Stephen Brunt of the Globe and Mail. Stephen, let's begin with you. You saw the interview with John Tory. It has been, and we've all been here for many years, it has been a different type of week.
It has been, very much. And it's been a good year for the CFL in a lot of ways. John Tory was talking about staying the course at his press conference this week. But I think, all those years when we said this could be the last one or it's going to have to go this way, it's going to go that way to survive. Right now, you can see the CFL coming back next year, status quo, and it's going to be sort of like this, I think.
Cam, we watched, all of us in here, that feature on 1991. You were in Edmonton in 91. You were here in Winnipeg covering the game. It's a very different league from 7 years ago.
Well, it was definitely a league in search of a model. And I think all of us understood, even watching that phenomenon in 91, that whatever the model was they were looking for, that wasn't it. It was too big, too splashy. They had to come back down to earth and be a more sensible economic entity. And I think the people that succeeded him, that group have actually accomplished that in a lot of ways.
They want a sensible, to quote you, economic entity. Do you agree with John Tory, and both of you can answer this, that we've got to go, we being the league, quoting him, to Vancouver and then to Toronto? It cannot continue to stay the Grey Cup on the Prairies?
Well, they can't. I think they can't keep ignoring the problem. Maybe they have to confront the problem and go to the places where it has seemed less important. In Vancouver, certainly in Toronto in '92, the game was largely buried there, and I think maybe they can't keep whistling past the graveyard. They have to actually confront the people that don't seem to love the game and say, here it is, here's the best we've got to offer.
It's going to be a huge challenge to go into Vancouver next year and do this. It'll be an even bigger challenge, I think, to go into Toronto. But they've got to do that. The smaller model of the league is having trouble in those big cities. And that's something, the game before that 91 game, the Eastern Final in Toronto, they drew 50,000 people at the Skydome for the Eastern Final. Real ticket sales, 50,000 people in the biggest market in the country. They can't approach that now. So that Hollywood model did work for a year. This small model, this more modest CFL isn't working. And I think they've got to, as Cam said, they can't just whistle past the graveyard. They've got to confront it.
All right, Southern Ontario is a problem area. Stephen, you live in Hamilton. Cam, you were in Edmonton, but now working for the National Post in the East. First, you, Cam, what do you see as the problem for the Canadian Football League in Southern Ontario? I know you haven't been there long. But...
Well, I mean, it's been rather a sobering process to go to Toronto, to move in and discover that an awful lot of people ask you why on earth you're devoting as much space as you do to the Canadian Football League. You find an awful lot of people around the newsroom, around your neighborhood, who clearly don't have it anywhere in their consciousness or a long way back. And I wish I knew the problem. It'd be, Steve has lived in Hamilton. He's probably a little closer to the situation.
Well, and I've seen various attempts to do it. And look, they did great things in Hamilton this year, and we give them a ton of credit. They went out, rather than threatening people, they went out and said, we're going to put a good team on the field, we're going to hire a good coach, and we'll put a decent product on the field. Please come and support us. And to a degree, people did come back and support them. Toronto, though, is a tougher nut to crack than that. And the league's kind of betwixt and between now. It's too small to exist in a place like the Skydome. It's too small for that. it's not big enough to fill the Sky Dome. You don't have something like Molson Stadium in Montreal. You don't have that kind of alternative to put it in a kind of a smaller, cutesy little park, and maybe people would feel nostalgic. Varsity Stadium's in the process of coming down. So they're stuck in the Sky Dome, and I don't know how you take this product that they have now and make it work in those confines.
Cam, what about here in Winnipeg this week? The fact the game is not sold out.
Well, I think that makes actually the decision to go into Vancouver and into Toronto a little easier. They've had now a couple of experiences in markets that you would have thought would embrace and be all over the Grey Cup, in Hamilton and now in Winnipeg, where they are back down to levels of 1975 for attendance. And I think maybe it makes it a little easier to go back into the other markets and say, look, on our worst day in Vancouver or in Toronto, we're going to sell this many tickets and more.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think what we've seen here is just the second time around. The pricing was a bit of an issue, and I agree with that. But still, second time around is different. And maybe Winnipeg's a little different place than it was in 1991. People get upset if you say that, but I think it is. I think maybe Winnipeg's more like the rest of the country than it was in 1991, a little more jaded about entertainment options and things like that. People more willing to just sit at home today. Maybe it's a beautiful day. I hope a few people come out. But I think Cam's right. You can sell 40,000 seats here. You can sell 40,000 seats in Toronto probably, or in Vancouver. There'll be empty seats in the stadium, but at least you can make it work in the big market.
Very quickly, prediction, Cam Cole first.
In my heart, I kind of think maybe Hamilton. They have absolutely nothing to lose here. I know that Calgary should win, but I've been to a lot of games that they should have won.
Involving Edmonton, by the way.
Well, in my heart, there's only one way to go here, right? Hamilton's going to win. My head tells me Calgary, but I think it's like '86. I think Hamilton's had a special year, and they're going to win.
Stephen Brunt of the Globe and Mail, Cam Cole of the National Post, thank you for joining me here in the studio this afternoon. When we return to Winnipeg, we will talk via satellite with quarterback Doug Flutie from Orchard Park, New York. Flutie and the Buffalo Bills this afternoon defeated Indianapolis. Speaking of quarterbacks, there's Jeff Garcia, who will start for the Calgary Stampeders this afternoon. And, of course, Danny McManus. McManus, by the way, won in 1990, won in 1994. He's here as a starter in 98. I don't know. You believe in numbers, you believe in cycles, maybe you go with Hamilton. Stay with us. Live coverage of Countdown to Kickoff will continue from here in Winnipeg right after this. Back live at Winnipeg Stadium on this Sunday afternoon. About, I would say, 36 minutes to kick off between the Calgary Stampeders with that big offense and the Hamilton Ticats with that strong defense. Well, as promised, we are going to hear from Buffalo quarterback Doug Flutie via satellite. But before going to Flutie, I understand out on the sidelines, we are first going to check in with Steve Armitage. Steve?
Brian, a major concern for the Hamilton Ticats this afternoon will be the health of their running back, number 24, Ronald Williams. He's been plagued by a pulled hamstring throughout most of the season, so he spent a lot of time in warm-up, stretching, getting the kinks out of that ham so that he'll have no problems when they kick off in a few minutes from now here at Winnipeg Stadium. But that has to be the biggest single concern for the Hamilton coaching staff, the health of their running back, Ronald Williams. He looked pretty good.
Thank you, Steve. When the Grey Cup was played here in 1991, it was Calgary and Toronto. In 1991, Doug Flutie was the quarterback for the British Columbia Lions. Flutie, though, remembers this week as he was named outstanding player in the CFL. Earlier, I spoke with Doug Flutie via satellite from Orchard Park, New York. Doug, you did not play in the game here in 1991 when the Argonauts defeated the Calgary Stampeders. You joined Calgary next year, but nonetheless, it was a very special week for you. Give me some memories of that week here in Winnipeg in '91.
Well, I just remember all the activities being fully attended and a great atmosphere out. When it was freezing cold, I remember that. I had won my first MVP award, and it was a big honor for me. And spent some time with John Candy and yourself and a few people down there, and we had a good time.
It was a great week. Let me move ahead now to Buffalo. You played so many years in the CFL. I'm talking in particular about Toronto. You're in Toronto. You're as good then as you are now. You couldn't get on page one of the sports. You couldn't lead a sportscast. Yet you moved 90 miles south to Buffalo. You're not only the biggest story in the United States, you're the biggest story in this country. Doug, what do you think it says about the Canadian football fans and the CFL?
I don't know. I think it legitimizes the CFL more in their mind to see me do well down here. I don't think they really realize what they have on their hands. It's a great game. It's a game that I think is a better game itself, a more exciting game, and sometimes they don't realize that. And you know, they look at the athletes on the field, and
you know, from listening to media and whoever else, they have this impression that the athletes aren't quite up to par with what they are down here. And I don't agree with that. I'd take groups of guys that I've played with, whether it be receivers, linemen, anyone else, and line up and go against anyone.
Doug, many have left the CFL to head south. None, though, speak about the CFL with the reverence you do. Whether you're on David Letterman or ESPN, you still speak about this league with respect and almost like you owe it something.
Well, not that I owe it anything. It just I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed playing football there. I didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything to play in the CFL, which is the impression everybody else seems to have. See, in my situation, I was doing it because I wanted to play football, and my salary in the CFL was comparable to what I could make down here. In most instances, guys are not making very much in the CFL and are always dreaming and looking and striving to go back to the NFL because of salary, because of the money. And so that's why maybe they don't view it the same way.
Doug, you mentioned salary. Larry Rickman had his problems. You had your problems with Rickman. He has yet to pay you your contract, but I was in Phoenix last week. I talked to Rickman. Here's a piece of videotape. Listen to what he had to say when I asked him if he plans on paying you what he owes you.
We're definitely working on settling. Doug and I were best friends, and when you try and exit the CFL, it's never smooth, and it's 2 years later now, and it's time to get it worked out.
Doug, your reaction to that?
Well, it'd be nice to work it out and settle that. That's been outstanding for, what, 3 years now. So, you know, I look forward to settling that.
Doug, have you talked to your brother Darren? I imagine you have some divided loyalties on this game come Sunday afternoon. Darren with the Ticats. You had the great years in Calgary.
Yeah, you know, I think about the guys out in Calgary, especially guys like Alan Pitts and the guys that, you know, in the offensive line, whether it be Jamie Crysdale, Rocco Romano, and just the group out there, the games that we suffered through, and we won the one championship, the one Grey Cup, but got so close so many times. So, you know, I'm kind of in their corner for that, and I'd like to see them get over the hump. But when it comes down to it, my brother and I are very close, and I wind up cheering for Darren.
Give Darren any advice?
Basically, no, I don't have to give him he's been there before. He's made the big plays in the big game. He knocked us out of it in '94 with his big play there and went on to win the Grey Cup. He knows what he's doing. And just hope he relaxes, has fun, enjoy the week, and play your tail off.
Doug, I can't find any Flutie Flakes here in Winnipeg, but Brian Burnett, our cameraman, said maybe they should be Frosted Flakes here.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, that has been unbelievably successful for the foundation, and it's been fantastic. I set up a foundation in my son's name, and it's really gone well. So you know, it's gotten a little out of hand, a little out of control, and they can't keep the store stocked here in Buffalo. They're just now getting to the Boston market, and you know, it's going to be a while before they start spreading around.
Doug, many people in this country have great memories of what you did in this league, continued success in the NFL. I know when this goes on the air Sunday, you'll be playing the Indianapolis Colts. Thank you for joining us, and good luck.
Thanks a lot.
By the way, Doug's young son is autistic, and money from the Frosted Flake sales goes to that foundation. Well, I mentioned, let's hold the videotape for just a minute. I mentioned that while that interview would be on the air here in Winnipeg, Doug would be playing against the Indianapolis Colts in Orchard Park, New York. That game is now over. We have a highlight. Buffalo, led by Doug Flutie, defeating Indianapolis by a score of 34-11. Here is a 67-yard touchdown, Flutie to Andre Reed. Flutie this afternoon, 20 for 28 in passing for a total of 230 yards, 2 touchdown passes, including the 67-yarder to Andre Reed. And you heard Doug talk about his brother Darren. And there is Hamilton's Darren Flutie. He'll face the Calgary Stampeders here in about 30 minutes from now. Stay with us, another break, and we'll return live to Winnipeg Stadium. You are watching Countdown to Kickoff as we cover the 1998 Grey Cup from here in Winnipeg on CBC. And a few Hamilton fans in attendance here this afternoon at Winnipeg Stadium. Calgary fans, a few more, though, as Calgary is much closer. Earlier, we showed you a videotape. CBC's first telecast of a Grey Cup was 1952, Toronto defeating Edmonton. For many years, both CTV and CBC shared the telecast. Pat Marsden did the play-by-play for CTV. Pat is now a morning host with John Derringer at the Fan Radio in Toronto. Pat had open heart surgery on Monday, a triple bypass. I'm happy to report he's doing well. Pat, from all your friends here in Winnipeg, the best. We have some advice, though, and that is don't jog for at least 2 weeks. And speaking of heart trouble, a great name from the past in Canadian Football League, J.I. Albrecht, had a heart attack this summer. Happy to report that he is recovering and doing nicely in Nova Scotia. As we continue from Winnipeg on this Sunday afternoon, Hamilton Ticats and the Calgary Stampeders. Once again, let's go up to the play-by-play booth. Here are Chris Cuthbert and Chris Walby.
Well, Brian, earlier we looked at the Calgary offense against the Hamilton defense. That's the glamour matchup. But on the flip side, and just as important in this game, will be the Hamilton offense, led by Danny McManus, against the Calgary defense. And these two units are unsung, but pretty good.
I tell you what, Danny Mac and Darren Flutie, we keep talking about those almost like they're brothers. They know each other. What did Danny Mac say? The biggest thing is that Darren Flutie's like a second quarterback for this guy. These guys have performed magic time and time again. Back in '94, when he was the BC Lions, again with Edmonton. And they're going to hope to repeat this again today with the Tiger Cats. The biggest thing about it is they want to get the ball to Darren Flutie anyway. Screen him, line him up outside, one-on-one coverage. Anything you can do to get the ball in Darren Flutie's hand. That's the offensive package for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
But you overload on Flutie, and then you've got to deal with Archie Amerson, and he's their pinball. He could be a big story today.
Well, that is true. This guy, he also runs the ball, he catches the ball, but the big thing he does is they're going to look for mismatches. He's going to line up in a slot. You see him right here coming across. The nicest thing about that is the fact that you'll usually get him covered by the middle linebacker. In this case, with the virtual reality, you got David Maeva, 1 foot, 2 feet behind him right now. The ball's being thrown on at Archie Amerson. With his speed and foot speed, he's going to pull away. This is what he does. This is big plays. And I tell you what, they're going to try and get the mismatch today against the Calgary linebackers.
Archie Amerson had 3 touchdowns against Calgary head-to-head this year. The other running back, Ronald Williams, he's a bruising back. Last week, 99 yards against Montreal, most in the first half. You've heard Steve report on the tender hamstring. He says it won't be a factor today, and that'll make Daryl Hall's job even tougher.
Daryl Hall is Mr. Everything for the linebacking crew for the Calgary Stampeders. Not only does he come up and stuff the run, here's a guy that has 6 quarterback sacks. 6. The leading sacker for Calgary's only got 7. This guy does everything for him.
And they've got a terrific secondary as well. Marvin Coleman, an All-Canadian in the past. Jack Kellogg, Eddie Davis. And Eddie Davis wasn't an All-Star this year, but Wally Bono says he might have been their most productive guy. They send him on a lot of blitzes. He had 3 sacks on the year, and Eddie Davis also with 4 picks. This is a good Calgary defense that was number 2 in yards allowed in the CFL this year.
Well, I tell you what, and this is where it all comes to. This guy, Alondra Johnson, right now, the emotional leader. He's the one that instituted the curfew for the players. He says, you know what, we're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure that we're focused, baby, to take this game and walk away with the Grey Cup rings.
Alondra Johnson, 10 years in the league. Darren Hall's been with this team for 6, and you've got Greg Knox back in the lineup. How about the experience? Calgary has the edge. Is that a big edge for them?
Well, you know what? They have the experience, and experience is a great thing. But you've got to remember, chemistry is a big thing, too. And right now, Lancaster has the Tiger Cats believing in themselves, and that means a lot when you go out and play this game. So anything can happen. We're just going to have to find out what will.
Yeah, Montreal had the edge in experience last week against Hamilton, and it didn't matter. The Ticats are here. Brian?
Thank you, Chris. Still to come, Mike Pinball Clemens from the Toronto Argonauts, and Mark Lee will join me. They will analyze the running games for the Calgary Stampeders and the Hamilton Ticats. We are live from Winnipeg Stadium, back in Winnipeg, right after this. And if you're just joining us, gorgeous afternoon for football here in southern Manitoba, +5, bright skies. Wind could be a concern. Yesterday it was out of the south at about 70 clicks, nowhere near that hard this afternoon, but as you see, it's fairly strong. The problem is now with people in the seats, it's no longer just out of the south, it gusts and swirls, and that presents a major problem for both the passing game and the kicking game. Well, once again, let's go up to the play-by-play booth, and as promised, here are Mike Pinball Clemens and Mark Lee. Mark?
Thanks a lot, Brian. And for the first time in 3 years, the pinball is not dressing for a Grey Cup game, although he is rather nattily attired for us. But what's it like, pinball, being on this side of the ball for a change?
Well, I tell you, Mark, it's certainly no more nervous. This morning I got up, I couldn't finish my breakfast. It's so much emotion tied around this game. I am wound up just like it's game day.
You're equipped to talk about the running game, so let's break it down, beginning with the Cats.
Archie Amerson on the left, Ronald Williams on the right. As we roll the tape, we'll look at the contrast between these two guys. Ronald Williams, they call him lunchtime. Why do they call him lunchtime? Because he came in the training camp 240 pounds. Amazing. He's now 210 yards, 210 pounds. The only thing he's eating up is yards, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Archie Amerson, on the other hand, is, you see him catching a pass here. He's elusive, but he can run and catch the ball. He's the best total running back in this game today.
A pinball clone. How about Calgary?
Now, on Kelvin Anderson. On this side of the ball, Kelvin Anderson, you see his numbers here, and as we roll the tape, he is what I call Mr. Patience. When he runs the ball, watch how he sets up his blocks. He takes his time, and watch everything develop. Here we go. He sets everything up. He runs. Now, look at the patience he exhibits. And not only that, Kelvin Anderson will also block. He'll do everything. This guy ran for 1,300 yards and doesn't mind blocking either. Very, very patient, dynamic running back.
You are game ready, I must say, sir. Yes. There's one more equation here. It's Dwayne Ford, usually a blocking back, but might he carry the ball as a factor today?
I don't think you'll see him carry the ball a whole lot, but what I think you'll see is that they'll try to change up every now and then and get him into the pass routes. That's what Garcia likes to do with him. He likes to give him the little dump passes because nobody will be watching him. He'll be a sleeper, yes.
Let's talk passing game. Mike Roach, the D coordinator for Calgary, was quoting the late, great George Hallis the other day. He said, given time, the pass pattern run correctly, the ball thrown accurately, there is no pass defense. So how do you stop McManus and Garcia?
The problem is that hardly ever happens. Hardly ever is everything perfect in this scenario when you run the route right and you throw the ball exactly. But the problem is, for the Calgary side, is Danny McManus can do that. He can. They say when he executes, he is Danny Magnificent. He is incredible.
And they say with McManus, because he is a timing passer, you've got to break his rhythm. And with a guy like Darren Flutie, you've got to break his route.
Exactly. And so that's what they're trying to do. And they have big guys that can come up and put their hands on these guys when they're trying to run the routes. And also with Danny McManus, they're going to try to show him different looks so they don't see the same thing all the time. On the other side of the ball, Jeff Garcia, though, when they try to interrupt him, the difference is he can run with the football. Yes. And that's when he is most effective, when he's on the move. So I think Hamilton has a tougher job, but they also have a guy on that side named Munford that is just an incredible player, led the league in sacks.
All right, Pinball, we look forward to your animated analysis throughout the course of this football game as our game day analyst. Now let's go back to Brian Williams.
Thank you, Mark. Fans streaming into Winnipeg Stadium as they prepare for the kickoff. The Hamilton Ticats and the Calgary Stampeders will return live to Winnipeg Stadium. This is Countdown to Kickoff on CBC. Back live in Winnipeg, today's great aerial shots over the city, over the stadium, provided by Canon Canada, leaders in imaging technology. And the helicopter provided this afternoon and piloted by Dave Tomasini. The cameraman is Grant Freeman. Look at those beautiful blue skies. And with the blue skies and warm temperatures, you see the field behind me. Ice is not a concern here today. Steve Armitage, you were here in 1991. You remember the concern for footing regarding ice. But Steve, as we go out to you on the field behind me, I understand, in spite of the warm temperatures, there is a concern about footing here this afternoon.
There is indeed, Brian. How many times have we heard the line, he tripped over the line, or he tripped on the numbers? Well, that could be a problem here today. Down through the years, they have painted up the sidelines and the numbers here at Winnipeg Stadium. The paint has built up. Now, during practice over the past couple of days, it got very slippery and very slick. As long as the temperature doesn't drop too much, this shouldn't be a problem. It's like cement. It is very, very hard, and it is also very slippery. They have come out during the week and they have tried to remove as much paint as possible from the numbers and the lines, and hopefully this afternoon it won't be a problem for the Ticats or the Stampeders. Now let's go over to the western sidelines and Glenn Suter. Glenn?
Steve, we have talked a lot about the wind here in Winnipeg Stadium, and it's swirling and gusting right now. I talked to Mark McLaughlin on the Calgary bench. He said his range going into it is about 47. but it's hard to read because he'll kick one ball in warm-up against the wind, and then in the very next football, it'll turn around and be behind him. It'll something you'll be watching. At this time in the game, the Calgary Stampeders have to keep a handle on their emotions. They're very pumped up. I talked to Jack Kellogg right now. He said that the defensive line were bouncing off the wall in the locker room. They're pumped up to play. All the talk is over. It's time to kick it off, and let's play some football.
All right, Glenn, do we have time for Peter? What the heck? Let's make time for Peter Jordan. We're in Winnipeg. A final word here on Countdown 98. Peter Jordan, where are you?
I love that attitude, Brian, when you're making time for me.
I know you do.
I'm here with some fans who may have a little more at stake than most. This is Kim McManus, Danny's husband. This is Mark, Ron's grandson, Ron Lancaster's grandson. And the Garcias, Bob and Linda. Let's start with you. Did you talk to Jeff? How's he feeling?
Well, I talked to him last night, and I'll tell you, he's excited. He's ready. He's ready to go.
All right, and you folks, too. And Kim, how's Danny feeling?
Saw him last night. He was more concerned about getting his ice cream last night before the game, so he's ready to go.
All right, Mark, who are you hoping for here?
Ticats.
I guess that was somewhat obvious. Now, you are used to the cold now, are you not? Because you were here 3 years.
That's right, and this is incredible weather. Thank you, Winnipeg, for providing this for us. Great
Hey,
job.
that was nothing. But actually, I know you guys are on aluminum seats, so what I made for you last night is it's a hot shot cushion. Okay, so you just sit on those because that aluminum will just suck the heat right out of the bottom. You know what I'm saying, eh? It can be absolutely brutal. Brian, I made one of those for you, too. I'll bring it up to you right away.
I'll be out of here before you bring it up to me, I guarantee it. Peter Jordan, I'll tell you what, Peter, if we're producing this show from here in the booth, we'll make time for you on every occasion. Just about set to kick it off. Steve Armitage will have the starting lineups, the player introductions, the stadium beginning to fill. It's the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Calgary Stampeders, Grey Cup 98. Stay with us. We'll take one more break, and we'll return live to Winnipeg Stadium right after this. Back live at Winnipeg Stadium, that is the marching band from the Yorkton Regional High School in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Steve Armitage standing by with the player introductions. And as we come back into our host location, north end of Winnipeg Stadium, as is our habit at this time, I hand off, countdown's over, hand off to a former quarterback with the Carleton University Ravens. Speaking of quarterbacks, Armitage was a quarterback at St. Mary's.
He's got a great gun on him, too. I've seen him throw the ball.
All right, let's put this former quarterback to work. We've enjoyed Countdown. Good luck in the show this afternoon. As we hand it over to you, you were saying to me during the commercial, you see two basic storylines in this game?
I think so. I think a lot of fans and even the teams themselves see this as two storylines. The Tiger Cats are seeing themselves as the team of destiny, the Stampeders, the team of determination. And when you look at the Tiger Cats, the worst team in Hamilton history 1 year ago with 16 losses, and now with just one more win, they can have their greatest season ever. How about the Stampeders? 7 first-place finishes in 9 years in the 90s and only one Grey Cup to show for it. And it's all over again, all or nothing here today. But within this game, each man has his own story, and each story is bottled with emotion.
Second thoughts. Paul Osbaldiston retires in January, reconsiders in April, and is rekindled in November. Hail Mary. Darren Flutie keeps the family name in the forefront at playoff time. Destiny. Mike Philbrick, burnt out by 16 losses, is lured from retirement 1 day before the season. Opportunity. Mike Morielli goes first string for the first time playing for his hometown. Unsung. Danny McManus, unwanted in Edmonton, welcomed in Hamilton. Pride. Don Southern, fired as Hamilton head coach, returns on defense for his finest hour. Good fortune. Ron Lancaster fashions the greatest reversal in Hamilton history. Seize the day. Jeff Garcia gets his first Grey Cup start, his stake in football history in the balance. Sense of urgency. Alondra Johnson stalls Father Time for one more sip from the cup. Taking the helm. Alan Pitts comes out of his shell with inspiration to go with his breathtaking catches. Second chances. Henry Newby, cut by the Tiger Cats, salvaged by the Stampeders. Elder statesman. Rocco Romano grew up cheering for Hamilton and now must slay his childhood nostalgia. Success story. Wally Buono has more wins in the 90s, but the Grey Cup has been elusive. From Winnipeg Stadium, it's the 86th Grey Cup. And for the first time in the fabled history of this championship, the Hamilton Tiger Cats meet the Calgary Stampeders. Good afternoon, I'm Mark Lee, and welcome to the Grey Cup on CBC. Well, this may be a Grey Cup original, the Stamps and the Cats meeting for the first time in this game, but they met twice this year, with the Stampeders sweeping the season series, 21-20, 35-18. Calgary, the only team this year the Tiger Cats could not beat. And the wind, well, we thought all week it was biting cold here at practice. It might be a factor, but it looks like it will not be a factor here today, but special teams indeed could. They were a disaster for the Stampeders in their last two Grey Cup defeats in 1991 and 1995, but special teams are a strong suit on this Stampeder team today. With more on that and other analysis, let's go up to the broadcast booth and welcome the men who will call Grey Cup 86 from Winnipeg, Chris Cuthbert and Chris Walby.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everybody. Well, it was a howling wind most of the week, and it's turned out to be a Chamber of Commerce day, but this guy played here for 16 years, and he says wind still could be a factor.
Well, I know it looks calm right now. We were here, like I say, 50-kilometer winds, but I tell you what, it'll change on a flip. Right then, all of a sudden, you got halftime, you come out, it's like, where are we? Just changed cities? So it will be a factor, and the teams have worked on some different things. They worked on the onside kicks, the quick kicks, field goal punt, where they pin it on a field goal and actually punt it off there. I mean, to give up 2 points, just field position. There's a lot of things they have to take into consideration when wind does become a factor.
Speaking of the flip, both coaches have already said if they win the toss, they'll defer to get the wind in the fourth quarter. That's an obvious, but the only thing here in Winnipeg, you don't know if you're going to have the wind in the fourth quarter.
You know what? I've been in games where we've got won the toss, taken it in the fourth quarter, and the other team has had to win every quarter because it keeps changing. So, hey, it's one of those things. We don't know what is going to happen.
Wally Buono said early in the week, though, that special teams could decide it, and we know why he feels that way. He's lost a couple of Grey Cups in the 90s on special teams.
Well, I tell you what, every coach will tell you there's three factors: offense, defense, and special teams. And special teams can kill you or change momentum. Look back here in 1991, Rocket Ismail back here in Winnipeg runs a punt back. This ultimately crushed Calgary's chances of winning the Grey Cup. And of course, back in 95, Chris Wright with another punt return. Coverage has got to be a little better today, but I tell you what, he takes it for a touchdown. These are big momentum changers. But not only that, you've got to block them up front when you are punting. Here's O.J. Brigance with the punt block. These things will kill you. And of course, who can forget the big 54-yard field goal by Paulus Bullison that got these Ticats here today.
Well, we're talking about the return game as well. It seems to be a tradition in recent years. We had Adrian Smith last year. The year before, Jimmy the Jet had a return for a touchdown along with the Giz. Ron Lancaster, the one thing about his team he's uneasy about, doesn't have a guy like the Giz on this team.
Well, we'd all like to have a guy like the Giz on our team, but unfortunately we don't. But Bobby Olive, he likes this guy. Here's a guy he looked to cut every time, but every time he went and looked at a roster, he said, this guy just keeps impressing me, doing things time after time. This guy will be a surprise.
Marvin Coleman, number 2 in the CFL in both punt returns and kickoff returns. Maybe an edge to Calgary in this department today.
Well, of course, and then you got to look at the kicking game. Ozzy with the big 54-yarder last week, all-Canadian field goal kicker. Best season he's had in a long time, 82%.
Ozzy 10 for 10 in Grey Cup play, and there's Winnipeg native Mark McLaughlin. Started with a rough season, but has bounced back of late, and Tony Martino is the leading punter in the CFL. Talked about that Calgary defensive line bouncing off the walls. So is Walby upstairs.
Hey, baby, let's go.
Go down to Mark Lee.
All right, gentlemen, the late Harold Ballard helping his Ticats hoist the Grey Cup the last time they won it in 1986. And for the team of the 90s, Doug Flutie and the Stampeders have celebrated just once in 92, and today one team will know that feeling again. Back at Winnipeg Stadium, where fans are bundled up, about 15 minutes now to kickoff of the 86th Grey Cup between the Stamps and the Tiger Cats. This was the scene last year in Edmonton. The Argos in Saskatchewan as Mike Pinball Clemens gets open and catches this touchdown pass from Doug Flutie for the Argos as they become back-to-back Grey Cup champions. And the Pinball is our game day analyst. Welcome aboard, sir. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mark. I can still feel the electricity, and out here is an amazing day today.
All right, Mike, breaking story just in advance of the kickoff of this game. Mike Morielli of the Tiger Cats informed me before this game that he suffered a broken rib. In last week's East final, he had broken a rib on Labor Day. That had healed partially, but it happened on this play. The hit from Stephon Reed and Torrey Hunter
He was not wearing a flak jacket. The rib is broken and is moving. He will wear a flak jacket but will not take any anesthetic to kill the pain. There he is putting on the flak jacket immediately after that hit, but this is a real story in courage, isn't it?
Mark, reminiscent of 1991, in this very same stadium, Matt Dunnigan, our leader, had a bad injury in his shoulder and went out and played. It could have been a career-ending injury. Mike Morreale today is doing an act of courage here. They say that quitters never win and winners never quit. Mike Morreale exemplifies this today in his courage. Now, he has so many things to play for. First of all, he's a hometown boy. Secondly, he's Canadian. I can't say enough about what Canadians do in the playoffs. I was talking last week about the great Canadians, and I got so excited about it, and everybody, why is he so excited? Because the Canadians, I think, have a special interest in this game, and it means so much more. But in combination to that, Norm Casola, his good friend and teammate, passed away, and he's dedicated to this game to Norm Casola.
There is a spiritual side to Mike Morreale. In fact, he wears Norm's number 80 on the back of his helmet, and if you watch after the national anthem today, he will kiss that number 80 and then point to the heaven, knowing that Norm Casola, his great friend who passed away of cancer in September, will be looking down upon him here today. Yes. Mike, we look forward to your analysis throughout the course of this football game, but right now, Glenn Suter, who was a member of the Saskatchewan Roughrider team that beat the last Hamilton team in the Grey Cup in 1989, is roaming the Calgary sidelines today. And Glenn, what do you think is going through the Stamps' minds at this point?
Well, right now it's mixed emotions for both teams. The Calgary Stampeders, of course, have been talking about not only getting here to Winnipeg, but also winning this game from day one in training camp. Nothing but a win would be satisfying for them. You know, there's a tremendous amount of energy right now on field level. It makes the guy want to put the pads on and get back in there. These guys are waiting for that first hit so they can settle down. It's going to be an exciting game, and I can't wait.
All right, Glenn, as we await the introductions of both teams here today, Mike, let me just ask you about leadership. That's become a big story in the Calgary camp, with Wally Buono saying players like Alan Pitts and Jeff Garcia have taken more ownership of this football team, have become sort of a go-between between Wally Buono and the rest of the players. What do you think about the emotional impact of that?
Very important here. And we'll talk about those leaders for the Calgary Stampeders. The Big Chill, Ray Childress, their best offensive lineman. He'll be the leader on offense. But he'll be right alongside Alan Bottomless Pitts. I call him Bottomless because his talent never seems to end. And he did a speech this week. He's usually a quiet guy. He got up and spoke at everybody. They call him silent but violent. He was vocal as well this week. So let's watch out for what happens on the field.
How about experience? The Cats don't have a lot of it. In fact, Eric Carter was telling me the other day, before last week's East Final, he'd only been to a high school semifinal in the past 10 years. That was the extent of his playoff experience. How will they react today?
Well, you know what? Sometimes it reacts adversely. But what I think is going to happen today is that when guys haven't experienced that before, there's a hunger. Sometimes you get a little satiated when you experience success, but these guys haven't been there before. They're going to be hungry.
All right, Mike.